Hey, we're going to do things just a little bit different today. We're going to be having a conversation. So October is our birthday month. Go ahead, come on up, team. And so we thought we would have a conversation with our. We have some exciting things to share today. So we're going to be having a conversation with our pastoral team, and aren't they good looking? This isn't all of our pastoral team, but this is our founding pastors team. So we're excited about today, and also just have a lot of crazy news to share. And so I'm going to be actually using my phone. I've never used my phone to share a message, but today I'm actually not sharing a message. Like I said, we're having a conversation, so we're really pumped about it. So I get to be able to see the mijo over there, but again, this is our birthday month, and so similar to 2012, we did this during, 2022. Yeah, 2022. I always get like the digits messed up. And so when you've had a lot of digits, they kind of start getting confusing, right? And so we were talking about that last night, about how it's crazy that we've been a church for 12 years, the OFOGs. So we have a Facebook. Does anybody else, I'm not a Facebook, what is wrong with me? So we have a chat, and so I have this thing where I like to name chats, and so our group chat is the OFOGs, because we are sort of the Mount Rushmore of Overflow. And so we were calling this today. Today's kind of this is the very poor attempt to trying to make that well, and it was a little bit better than the online AI generators, but we've been so today we've been kind of calling this is kind of our code word for today, was the Mount Rushmore Sunday. And so y'all have a mic, right? Oh, okay, awesome. Just making sure. But I said, hey, why don't we just share some memories from our church, and kind of we're gonna talk a little bit today about the past, the present, and the future. And so that's always a fun conversation. But I just wanted for us to share, and I'll let you guys jump in here. So basically. And I said, bring three things. And we might not get to all three of those. So many of y'all don't know our origin story. If you've been through the deeper track, you hear this during the deeper track, but 12 years ago, Nathan and Brooke were college students at Christ for the Nations. And we met them over at Chili's on Carrier, and it was a lot better back then. The restaurant was, and they were a lot younger. We were a lot younger, and I wish
dinner too, you know.
Yeah. We were in our younger bodies, and so. You were pregnant, and I was pregnant with hope. Come on, and so we were there, and we had when we moved out here, we didn't really know anybody. We knew like two families. They were plugged into church. Nathan was leading worship at another church, like kind of helping out there with their youth program. They were like 19. Were y'all both 19? And they were students, and we were like, what are we gonna do? Like, we're just gonna. We didn't really have a real good system. We didn't go through any church planning boot camp or anything like that. No covering or anything, and we had to find all of that within a matter of months. And so we sat down with them at Chili's, probably had some chicken crispers or something, and asked them, hey, would you guys help us plant that church? And so they said yes, and that's kind of how Overflow was started. And then we met in our living room. Do we have some pictures of that? Pictures of the living room. Look, that was our first night. Look at Moriah, who is our kids director now. She's so little, and Judah right here on the drum. He was probably super off, and Nathan playing the djembe there, and so.
Brooke was on the couch changing the.
Yeah, Brooke was changing the lyrics for the one other family that was there, and so there were 10 people in our living room that night, and our iPhone cameras weren't as good back then as they are now. So that would be one of my favorite memories as a church. Somebody else share about one of your favorite
I'll share one of
moments.
mine. So one of my favorite things that I have seen, and it's not really just one event, it's God's faithfulness has repeated over and over. And it's when we first said yes to come out here and plant a church. We had no idea what that was going to look like, but we just said yes, and we started in our living room. And we were there for 5 months, and the only income we had as a church was our tithe and their tithe. And it was so funny. I meant to get a picture of it. The first service report, I had it, and the offering was like $7.36. Like, and Brooke's like, yeah, that was my college tithe. That sounds about right. But nobody planted us, nobody was funding us, and God was just faithful. He was very faithful. And so when we started meeting in a building, and our rent was like $400 a month, we're like, how are we going to do that? And the Lord provided, and then we were there for 9 months, and then we knew we needed to get to another building on Saturday. From Saturday to be on Sunday mornings, and we got a building that our rent was going to go to $1,200 a month. And we were like, how are we going to do that? And the Lord provided. And then we got this building up the street where we were for 7 years, and our rent almost tripled again, went to $3,000. And I'm like, how are we going to do it? And the Lord provided. And then we were going to buy this building, and I remember going with Josh to sign the papers, and I'm like, are we going crazy? We've never had debt as a church, as far as a building or anything.
What's funny about that day, so I was so nervous when we went to
so
go
was
sign.
I, because I'm the finance person.
Sign the paper on this building. I was like so nervous on the way to the office where we were going to sign the papers. I was like just praying in the Spirit, because I just knew that something was going to happen between the time that we left the house and we signed those papers, that we weren't going to get the building. And we had already made all these promises. We're moving in. This is our date. Like, we had already set all these dates. So there was it was kind of risky.
Yes.
And I just remember coming back.
Hold on before you get to that. So I didn't have to be there at all, because he was the one signing, but I'm the one that did all the work to get all the finances in order. So I'm just like watching him as he signs, and I'm like, are we signing our lives away right now? And so anyways, he signed like 3 signatures, it felt like, and then they're like, okay, it's yours. And he's like, that's it. So then we came over here to the building.
We came over here, and I just remember like pulling up right over here on Houston Street.
And he just stared out the window for like 30 seconds. There's a video I took of him just staring.
Yeah, it was
And then we came inside, and there was still a bunch of stuff from when it was the event center, and there was this like feather wreath. And he put it around his neck, and he was like, this is our building. So we had a little victory party, just the two of us. But anyway, awesome. All that to say, still to this day, 12 years in, nobody outside of Overflow Church, an organization or anything, funds us. It's just the tithes and offerings of our amazing people. And we're able to do this. And I shared at Furnace a couple weeks ago that even if you're feeling like you can't trust God, or something is hard right now that you're walking through, every time you walk into this building and your feet physically touch this floor, just remember that it's a sign of God's faithfulness, and He's going to continue being faithful.
Yeah.
So for me, it was a moment. A lot of you guys may not know our story, but we dealt with infertility for a few years, and which felt a little ironic, because the Lord had given Pastor Josh and Leslie a word that we would be the house of the open womb. And I'm on staff at the house of the open womb, and my womb is clearly not open yet. And so there was a service that we had. I was probably almost 2 years into dealing with infertility, and we had a service. It was a worship service and ministry time. And during the ministry time, they had everyone come up to the front who was dealing with infertility. It was me and I think 3 other ladies. And everyone gathered around us and prayed for us. And I remember just being like, you know what? At that time, I was kind of like done kind of believing for that miracle. And I remember just thinking, this is what Moses must have felt like when her and Aaron lifted up his arms, you know what I mean? And I remember I got saved when I was 17, but I really wasn't a part of a church until Overflow. And I was like, this is what the church is supposed to be. And I was so proud of like our people, even though I was the one receiving. I was just like, this is so amazing. Like it just blessed me so much. Even though I was on staff, like everyone was warring with me. And now I have 2 babies and my body's healed, and thank you, Jesus. So the Lord did open my womb. It just wasn't on my time, but He did do it. So that was probably one of my favorite moments. What about you, baby?
Yeah, I mean, so when we first started the church, I mean, I don't know if a lot of you guys know, but Josh and Leslie were my youth pastors when I was a teenager. I met them when I was 15, so I've known them for over half my life. And so whenever they came to Dallas saying, hey, we want to start a church plant, I was just like, whatever y'all need, I'm there, because I already knew the kind of pastors they were. And I grew up in the church, and so it was like, I grew up going to church to church to church to church. My family is very much like denominational. Like, my mom got saved in a super Pentecostal church, and then we went to a really happy Baptist church, and then we went to a really Southern Baptist church. There's a difference between a happy Baptist and Southern Baptist. If y'all don't know, there's a major difference. So then I start going to this youth ministry in El Paso, and it's like, it's unlike anything I've ever experienced. I'm like, something's going on here that I need. And all that to say, those same pastors were coming to Dallas asking if I would help them out. And it was like, they were like, would you please, like they're like a little popper, like, would you please just help us? And I'm like, my yes is here. Like, you guys have my yes. And I just remember, like, one of my favorite memories, it's more so like a time period. It's when we first started the church, and every week we would get together at the Brownses on Saturdays, I guess. And I remember what day it was, and we would just eat together and worship Jesus together. And then the guys would go out and ride bikes. Like, we would just you guys know Pastor Josh likes his bikes, you know what I'm saying? And so we would go on bike rides, man. We would just all go hang out and just, follow Jesus together in a very simple way. And I love the fact that still happens now in a bigger setting, that we're all still following Jesus together throughout the week. It's not just a Sunday thing, and so that's just one of my favorite memories from early Overflow. So.
That's awesome. So I was going to piggyback off that real quick. So
Yes.
It was Wednesday nights, and it was really the beginning of groups.
Yes.
We just didn't know it, and the guys would get together and do something like manly. And Josh actually taught an adult male there to ride a bike in one of those.
Yeah, that's
that was
right, I
really
did.
cool.
Yeah.
Because he had never learned. And then the women would
He's
stay.
a professional bike rider.
Now he is,
I'm just
yeah.
kidding. He's not. That'd be awesome though if he was.
Yeah. And then at the time, we had a lot of college age students, and so the women would stay back, and we would like cook something. And I'm not a great cook, but I knew a little bit more than they did because I was a little bit older. And so I would be like, oh, this is how you cook this. Or one time we made like laundry soap, and it was just kind of like we were like doing homey things, and then the guys came back and ate. So it was very much like the men go out and have fun, and the women are in the kitchen. But it wasn't on purpose.
Well in 2024.
It wasn't on purpose.
Think.
It was fun,
Yeah.
and we did it together. It was a lot of fun.
Patriarchal. Yeah. Yeah, sorry, we repent. Yeah, we're crying about it. One of my favorite things is when we did our 10-year anniversary. I think don't we have a picture of that service? And
Same couch. We bought this couch for that.
Can we not have picked a better picture of me? Why do I look terrified? That's horrible.
Well, I was probably being pretty intense.
I have a frown.
If you can imagine.
I have a frown too.
Yeah.
Maybe we can find another picture before
We still
second
have some
service.
of those shirts around too. Aaron's got one. Pastor Aaron's got one of those. Yeah. So it was just that was really my favorite days that we've had as a church. It was. I felt like that day, that season that we were in, because it was just a couple months later that we walked into this building, and I just felt like that season gave us a lot of hope. That's whenever the van was given to us, which if y'all see that van back there, I think it's like 22 years old, but it was it was like God just kind of winking at us, being like, I got you.
I felt very legit when our church had a van. I was like, we've made it.
Leslie, that
we
was a
don't
real
have
big
a
deal.
building, but we have a van.
That's right. And so we don't have a building, but we have a way to get there, wherever that building is. So, and then, someone donated the paint and someone donated the decals. And so we just, I don't know, it was just a little mercy kiss from the Lord. And then that November is whenever I told the staff, I was like, I just feel like it's close, because we were talking about going to 2 services and all that. And then it was that week, that was a Sunday, and then I believe it was a Thursday, we met with our board of directors, and we were like, well, we believe it's closed, but we don't have a building yet. And the next day I walked into this building.
Yeah, I actually had it in our
It was
board meeting
wild.
notes, no building on the horizon.
Right.
Like it's in there. And then the next day,
Yeah.
we came in.
It was just a fun season.
Isn't that how the Lord works when we think
It was just a fun season.
So I also had the 10 service for me. It was so cool because some people that had been a part of the journey over the years like came back, and we got to see. And with being a young church, especially with a lot of people that are in college or young families that are going to get a job and move somewhere, we've seen a lot of people through the years that have been with us for a season, and we've loved each other, and then they've left, and it wasn't any animosity or just kind of they were moving here or moving there. And so whenever we had that day to kind of see everybody come back together, it was really neat. And also we were, I don't know if I'm stealing Nathan's, but that guitar right there Nathan, it was like his dream guitar. And Josh had the thought and I had the thought. And we didn't tell each other. And then he's like, I think we should get Nathan a guitar for our 10-year. I was like, me too. And so we found it and we got it, and it sat in my closet for like 2 months before. And I was like, oh, I just want to give it to him so bad. But whenever we pulled it out, it was on that stage with that couch, and his face was like, we wanted him to cry. Brooke and I were like, we hope he cries. He never cries. He doesn't. But he was like, what? Is this really in there? Is this really in there? So it was just really cool to be able to bless him with that after all the hard work he's given and all the years he gave without getting paid.
Do you want us to keep going with more memories, or do you want to go? Okay.
Keep going.
So I would say I closed out my notes, but the next one for me is, since we're kind of talking about the new building, I remember vividly, like, I walked in through that door and I was standing right over by where like Leanne and Elijah are, and worship was just like so thick. And I immediately started getting emotional because I was like, this is what we have prayed for. Like, Nate and I have prayed so deeply for our people to just catch like the goodness of Jesus and understand, like, and behold him. And it felt like in that moment, like our people finally got it. And I was like, and I don't know if y'all have ever just like taken a moment to listen to worship, but the acoustics in this building, the Lord knew. And it is like so good. And I just was like, thank you, Jesus. Like, such an answered prayer, so many answered prayers in that moment. And so for me, I think that's like a little bit of a season. Like, our people are just getting it. It's so good, you know? What you got?
Yeah, sorry, excuse me. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of one of my favorite, like, when I think back on the history of Overflow, thus far, it's like, there was a season that just felt different. It was just like, there was years and years and years and years and years and years where we were just praying and just being faithful, right?
Yeah.
Being faithful to what the Lord called us to do. And we were just like, Lord, like, we want to see. There's this vision that the Lord kind of like gave all of us for what Overflow is going to look like. And I just remember there was a certain season right after the pandemic where it was just like, something's changing, something is shifting. And the way that I felt like the Lord gave me a picture of it years ago, and he was like, you guys have planted, you guys have watered and watered and watered and planted more. And he's like, and now we're starting to see the bud. Like, you're starting to see it kind of starting. There's life there. And for years and years, it was just kind of, not that we didn't see life. We did, There was life, but it was just like, we just had to trust that the Lord was doing something, right? And it's beneath the surface. A lot of times you don't see the growth. And so this right now, where we're at, I'm not just talking about numbers here. I'm talking about the tangible of the Holy Spirit and what he's doing in our people. And we're just at the beginning of it, y'all. Like, it is just starting. And I'm just so grateful for that as a worship pastor, as someone who, my favorite place in the whole world, and I've said this to Brooke recently, my favorite place in the entire world is just looking at Jesus, singing to him, and then opening my eyes and a whole church full of people are also worshiping him with me. Like, that's my favorite place in the whole world. Because in one moment, we are all beholding Jesus. And it's not about a single person on here. It's not about anybody, any one pastor or leader. It's like, we're all here to behold Jesus. And one day we will actually behold him with our very eyes. And
A physical man.
A physical man coming
Yes.
down. Like, this is what we believe, y'all.
Yeah, he will give us physical bodies to be able to gaze at him. And
in that moment, we're all
I'm ready for that.
Come on. Don't get me started.
I mean, not ready.
We're
Not
gonna
ready
take his
yet.
microphone away.
You know.
He'll keep going.
Yeah. So I want to piggyback off of what you said, because that was one of my things too. You talked about that season, and I know exactly when it was. It was 2021, and it was after COVID. And, obviously we lost. Yeah, and we had a lot of momentum, if you remember, when COVID hit. And then COVID, just like everyone else, cut us like 50 to 60%. Probably attendance 50%, killed our volunteer base. A lot of those people we haven't seen since then. And y'all that know us know that, like, we're highly relational. So that was very difficult. And I was sitting on the back porch, and we were doing 2 services because of social distancing and all that stuff. And I was just tired. And I was really heartbroken because all these people that we loved, we didn't see them again. And then there was a shift where there was a lot of people that we loved that were moving away, like 3 core families, maybe more. And I just remember sitting on the back porch, and I was just like, Lord, I mean, what are we doing? Like, we've been doing this for a long time. At that point, it was 9 years. And the Lord just asked me, he said, do you believe in what you're doing? And I just sit there for 4 minutes. I sit there. I was like, I'm not sure. I don't know how to answer this. And so after sitting there for about 4 minutes, I just said, yes, Lord, I believe. And I think the Lord asked me that. And it's interesting that that's the question that the Lord has always asked us. Do you believe about the church? I believe in that moment, what he was telling me is that he believes in what we're doing. And I just remember the courage. And so I went to the staff. We had a retreat like the following week, and we were trying to figure out how we were going to take a break from doing 2 services for the summer and then go back up. Again, we were only doing it because of social distancing. We didn't need to do 2 services. So I just said, you know what, we're going to do 1 service indefinitely. It felt like the Lord was just calling us to lean in. And that's when everything started transitioning. I felt like in that moment, the Lord was just calling us to trust him again. And because the pandemic just really rattled us a lot in a really good way. And that was the season that many of you that are still with us, y'all started coming during that time, 2021. And that's when things just really started moving. And of course, a year and a couple months later, we got the building. So that was fantastic. Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, another big moment for me was when we got this church. It was March 23rd of 2023. And we started working like almost immediately. We were trying to do what we could because we knew that we could not have a mortgage and a rent. And so we immediately started working here. We had the rest of April to finish out at the other building, and April 30th fell on a Sunday. So we literally told everybody it was moving day, come in comfortable clothes. I think you even preached a message and had boxes on the stage. You're like, it's moving day. And we were just hoping, because you say that, and it's like, hey, help us move. And then everyone's like, oh, gotta go. And so we weren't sure what it was gonna be like that day. But everybody, and we were quite a bit smaller at that point. We were probably about 120 people at that point. And so we were like, all right, guys, we had our full service like normal. We didn't want to we kind of wanted it to still feel like a real service. So at the end, we're like, all right, we're moving. And I'll tell you what, it was like little amazing worker bees or ants, whatever, working together. People were stacking chairs. And I think one TV broke. There was one casualty. A TV fell over. R.I.P. It was a camera. It was a camera, not a TV. It was a camera. Like it went, boom. It went to be with the Lord. But it was so amazing. And everybody, for those of you who don't know, it was...
That person still owes us like $700.
No, he's kidding. Our old building was a mile down the street, okay? So we weren't far away. And so everybody was just putting stuff in their own vehicles and in different trucks and all this stuff. And it was like, I want to say like 30 minutes maybe. We thought we were going to be there for hours and hours. And it was so fast. And then people were here and they were unloading stuff. And they're like, where do we put it? And I'm just like, this is so good. Just working together and then just seeing people that came up. Because then we had already been working. But from that last service there, the next Sunday we were here. So like it was like service to service. And so that week was really like go time. We didn't have the carpet on the stage, but the stage was up. We didn't have a screen, so we passed out papers with the words. We're like, here's the words for worship. But we did it. We did it in that week, and it was such a blessing. Even Alyssa, who's here today, was a part of our church for many years and moved back home to Tennessee, and she was in town. She's like, I want to come. I want to paint. And it was just so cool to see the family, the Overflow family, just come together in that season, because even though we were up here 10, 12-hour days, we still could not have done it without all the people that came to help us. So it was just such a blessing to me.
Can I keep going? Okay. So probably my last of my 3, is just the words. We had Pastor Prophet Ron Campbell came last week, and the words that he has given Nathan and I have been so transformative for us. So again, many of you may not know, but he's the one who prophesied to me that I was going to have a baby, that I would be healed of endometriosis, and nobody except for my husband, and I think Pastor Leslie, knew that I thought I had endometriosis. I hadn't even been to the doctor yet. And he spoke to it, and I was healed in a month and a half. I was pregnant. And then not this last time, but the time before when he came, he gave Nate and I a word that was just so timely for us. And we had never been given a word as a couple. We always joke that if there's a prophet within 50-mile radius, Nathan's getting a word and I'm getting blown away. They're like, oh, who are you? Okay, let me give a word to him. I never get prophetic words like that. And so the fact that we got one together and it was just so timely, I think that has been really encouraging to him and I. I know, I'm not saying I think, but those have been really, I'm so thankful that we've made a space for that to happen with our people. And I'm grateful because I've been able to receive from that ministry. So that's my thing. What's yours?
Yeah, I would say that my last one is that as well. I think, no, it's just, but just.
Reading off her notes.
That's so funny. I'm what does she write? Okay. No, yeah, I think for me, it's just again, I'm kind of talking in seasons rather than specific moments, but one thing that I'm really grateful for is the fact that we are so open to Holy Spirit doing what the Holy Spirit wants to do in our people. And I'm praying that just increases in every single one of us, that we're not just waiting for a prophet, Ron Campbell, to come, but that we move in a spirit of prophecy. Paul talks about eagerly desire the gifts, especially prophecy. Right. And so because it's to build each other up, and it's seeking the heart of the Lord for what he wants to say or what he wants to do, and then basically prophetically, declaring it, right? And so I'm believing that the Lord is just going to keep doing that stuff here, and I'm really excited about that. But yeah, I think it's just those prophetic words, man. They were so specific, yeah. And the Lord knows I'm a person who needs reminders. I'm a person who I'll hear the Lord say something, and then I'm but I don't know. I'm really scared about that. I don't know. And so the Lord has to tell me over and over. And he's so kind about that he does remind me what he has told me, because for me it's a confirmation that I did hear him. Yeah. I heard him, because you're confirming it through this person, unrelated. All right, it's go time now. And so I should be a little bit more, the Lord says delayed obedience is disobedience, and I should be a lot more, faithful to just trusting, man. But that's just such a hard thing to do, is trusting the Lord when you feel him say something and then just going for it, even without the confirmation sometimes, and so anyway, I feel that's just, yeah.
So good. Well, let's shift a little bit the conversation. So Ecclesiastes, very, very famous passage out of that, probably it's one of those scriptures that heathens know, because heathens sing about it. And it says, for everything, there's a season, a time under every activity under heaven. So, and he goes on about, seasons to live and die. And I think Ecclesiastes is a very abstract book. It's not really a book you want to get theology from, because a lot of it's very emotional. But what I do love about it is it really kind of identifies a lot of times where we're at, and the emotions that Solomon is feeling when he's writing this. And so, we go through seasons of life and shifts and changes and all of that, and we want to open it up a little bit and kind of talk about Nathan and Brooke, what's going on in your life and kind of the season you're in and the shift, and just share with your people what's going on there.
Yeah, so one of the things that was a prophetic word that I've received just over and over and over and over the last 10, 12 years has just been that the Lord is going to use me in songwriting and in worship, and it's just been it's different people, different faces, completely unrelated. So I know it's the Lord. And part of that process is a few years ago, I joined a local songwriting community called Artisan Writers. Some of you guys have heard of it on social media. And the Lord just kind of like started birthing this desire, this thing where he's like, I need you to pursue this, and I want you to, refine that specific skill. And anyway, the long story short of it is, earlier this year we really felt a call from the Lord to take a step down from the church, from our staff role, and really he started planting that last December, and I had a conversation with Pastor Josh about it. I was just like, hey Pops, I'm just kind of letting you know where we're at with what we're hearing from the Lord. I don't know what that means as to how long we'll be at the church, but we'll be here at least for the next year. And so we just took it day by day, season by season, and then the Lord this last May was just like he dropped this idea. And so the idea is it's a worship songwriter retreat. And so me and Brooke are going to be heading that up. We're doing our first one this October, or here in
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
And part of that process is that at the end of November, we're going to be stepping down from staff and in full pursuit of that thing that he gave us. And furthermore, on top of that, he's calling us to move to the Nashville, Tennessee area. And so our lease at our house, current house, ends in May. At the end of May, we'll be moving to Nashville. And we're just it's such a bittersweet thing, because it's like we've just been seeing the hand of the Lord. You guys are hearing like a quick little 15-minute explanation, if that. We've been just daily walking this with the Lord and seeing his hand in every little detail, and the way he's just weaving it all together. I'm gonna tell a quick little story and then I'll pass it off to Brooke. But the Lord told me in May that we'd be starting this like songwriter thing. It's a worship songwriting retreat, right? And he gave me specific faces of people to ask to be a part of this thing. And I drug my feet all summer. All summer I just delayed. I'm telling you, it's something that I do, and I'm working that out with the Lord. I'll hear him say something and I'm like, oh, but what about this, Lord? But what about that? I felt like Moses, in the sense that like the Lord had given him a mandate, given him a specific instruction, and he was just like, Lord, but I can't talk, right? He had a stutter. And the Lord was just like, I'm going to give you the words to say, right? And it's like, in that entire summer, that's all I kept hearing the Lord say. It's just like, I'm going to give you the details. I'm going to stop dragging your feet, waiting for me to give more clarity, and just obey the first thing I told you. And it's like all I could see was just what was in front of me. I had a lunch with Ben, just a number of weeks ago, and he painted it in such a beautiful way. He's like, it's like you're carrying a lantern, and all you can see is just your feet. And you're not going to see the next thing until you just take a step forward. Yeah. And once you take that next step forward, new clarity comes forward, right? And I think the Lord does that on purpose, and many times so that he can see and we can show ourselves that, number one, that he is faithful, that we can trust him, that he is trustworthy. And so, anyway, I drug my feet all summer in asking the right people, or the specific ones that he showed me. And then there was one day after the summer was over where I was like, you know what, all right, I got an hour drive home from my job. I'm gonna make some calls. I made some calls. Every single one of them was ecstatic yes. They wanted to be a part of this thing, which scared the heck out of me, because I was like, what if they say no, Lord? Like, what if I sound so stupid? And they didn't, right? And then that was number one. And then number two, the day after that, someone had reached out to me saying, hey, we feel like the Lord is asking us to partner with you in something he's telling you to do. What is that? And one of the things that I was afraid of was, these songwriter retreats typically are held like at an Airbnb or some sort of place that can host, a number of people for a couple days. And I was like, Lord, we don't really have the money right now to spend, on an Airbnb type thing to host these. And the Lord wanted us to do it every like 4 months. And so I'm like, we don't really have that extra money like that. And I had the meeting with that person, and they were like, well, I told them everything that the Lord was showing me. And they were like, well, consider it paid for. Mm-hmm. The day after, I decided to just obey and make the calls and step out and, push through the fear. And the day after, and that's what he does, dude. That's what he does. Yeah. Is he confirms that whenever we walk in obedience and in faith and trust, he starts to confirm those things.
Well, and to kind of piggyback off that, I just pulled it up in my notes. I was sitting over there in worship. I didn't remember when it was, but it was April 28th. And I was sitting over there and I had a vision, and I'll read it out. It said, I had a vision of Nate and I holding hands, and the girls were beside us. We were in a dark hall and we couldn't see anything. And then as we took one step, a door flew open, and we kept walking down the hall. And as we moved on, doors kept flying open with every step that we took. And then I heard the Lord say, just trust me. And this is before, we knew that this songwriting retreat was happening. All we knew was that the Lord had told us to step down from the church, and we had no idea why or what our life was going to look like. And for us, it's been all backwards, right? So the Lord was just like, just do this, and then we'll address the next thing. Okay, do this, now let's address this. And so now we're telling you, and we have a little bit more of the pieces, but when we told Pastor Josh and Leslie, we were like, we don't know. We just know that the Lord said this, and then at that point, he's told us to start this songwriting retreat. And just to kind of talk a little bit about the songwriting retreat, because I think that's important. So it's kind of what the Lord gave Nathan, is that it's going to be called The Good Portion, talking about the verse with Martha and Mary, and Mary's just sitting at Jesus's feet, and Jesus said, telling Martha, Mary chose the good portion. That's Jesus, right? And that's kind of just our heart. We, many of you don't know this because you just see me running around like a chicken with my head cut off on a Sunday morning, but I definitely, I've been given words that I am called to worship and songwriting. That's another thing that Ron has spoken to me directly, which has been really encouraging, because I haven't really gotten to move a lot in that gift. But I know that it's something that he's called me to do. And so when Nate came to me with this vision that the Lord had given him to start this songwriting retreat, and it's called The Good Portion, and he's like, I just don't want it to be like a normal songwriting retreat, because a lot of them are just, you go in and you come with ideas of songs, and then you just put your heads together and you do it. And the Spirit can move on those things. But for us, our heart is just so deeply, we want people to just be in love with Jesus and be enthralled with him. And we want them to encounter him through songs that are sung, not just oh, Jesus is good, but okay, you're having a really hard time believing for your healing. Let's write a song about how much this sucks, but we know that Jesus is going to bring you healing. You know what I mean? What we see in Psalms, we want to write those kinds of songs, the songs that are on the Father's heart. And I'm not saying other people aren't doing that, but that's just our vision for this thing. And so we're going to start off first night, just a worship night, and Nate and I are going to pray and prophesy over people, and we want to encourage people. And then the next day, it's just solely writing off of those songs that the Lord gave us during our time of worship. And then after that, we're going to release an EP after each retreat. Then we're just going to kind of see what goes from there. We don't have a lot of details. Like I said, like the vision said, I'm just supposed to take one step, he said. So we're just kind of trusting him in that. And it's a lot, but Nate and I, when we had our 1-year anniversary of being married, we got Fearless Trust tattooed, both of us. And we feel like that has just been our life motto. And I feel in this season, the Lord's okay, the reason we got it is literally what we had said is we're going to fearlessly trust the Lord wherever he leads us. And though it's tough where he's leading us, we're going to fearlessly trust him, and we're going to do what he said to do. Yeah, so what you got now?
I'm super proud of you guys for saying yes to that. Come on, isn't that awesome? Leslie's going to get into a little bit of kind of some of the dynamics about, what life is going to look like around here in a few minutes. But I want to talk about, I asked you guys to bring up 3 things about the church, but I wrote down three memories that I had about you guys. And I have some pictures. So I was looking for more, This is Nathan and Brooke when they first came to the church. And look how young the mijo is. Look how, they're like scene kids. And y'all know what scene kids are, right? Most of y'all were scene kids or, you know, kind of around there. Brooke's like wearing Toms, so if that gives you any, I'm sure Nathan had Vans on, so. And I was trying to show off my shoes and look cool, I guess. I don't know what I was doing, but anyway, it was just I remember those days you guys coming over and when y'all were single and, you know, trying to honor the Lord in your relationship, which you did a very, very good job at that. And I just remember that Christmas in 2012, Nate, and you did Christmas with us at the house. And it's one of my favorite Christmases ever. I think didn't it snow that day? And you shot me.
It snowed, yes. And I was going to say,
go ahead.
So Nathan, we got a Nerf gun.
It wasn't very funny, but go ahead.
We got it was a bug. We got a Nerf gun for Judah for Christmas, and Josh was going outside because he was deep frying a turkey, and with the snow, we were kind of scared. And he went outside to check on it, and Nathan hid around the corner with that Nerf gun, and as soon as Josh walked in, and he didn't have glasses at the time, it shot him almost exactly in the eye, and Nathan was like, am I about to get in trouble? But what we didn't say yet is Nathan lived with us for about 8 months.
Sure.
In the process of the early years of starting the church. So he's definitely like an older son of ours, more than just anything else. So.
And we met Brooke in 2012 at Six Flags. We had a youth trip here with our youth group, and we were telling them we're going to be moving. Nathan was like, I know we were always going to be in ministry together. Remember those conversations? And so it was really awesome meeting Brooke and getting to hang out with you guys in those early stages. But
we saw them hold hands for the first time.
Yeah.
Because you can't hold hands on CFNI campus because that's PDA. Yeah. But at Six Flags, they were holding hands.
Yeah.
We told Nathan, we said, hey, we have an extra ticket, 2 extra tickets. Somebody backed out. Do you want to come and have a friend? And we thought he would bring a guy, and he showed up with Brooke, and we're like, oh, okay.
And then, of course, your wedding. I think I have a picture of your wedding. Yeah. Look how young we all are. And, y'all, I still look the same, so. Almost. But that was a very special wedding. I don't know if anybody in the room is there, but Nathan had a scroll. Brooke read her little index card, and then Nathan, seriously, was a real y'all that know Nathan know that he can't do anything brief and quick, and so he. And I mean, it is your wedding. You don't really want it to be cut short. You want to make sure that you get all those promises, but you probably need to pull that out and make sure you're keeping all that because there was a long list.
Hold on. Oh, there we go. When we had the mold situation, I made sure to keep those because I was like, all right, Bubba, what are we keeping these? Which we were doing pretty good. I was like, we need to redo these. These are kind of easy to live by now that I've done 10 years of life. I was like, we didn't know what was coming.
Absolutely. And then I think my favorite is just the open womb. And that's Bella. You know, that was 2020. And you guys had her during whenever we were locked down and all of that. And I was just looking through pictures. And then, it's just a real special time to see that. We saw that with a lot of people in our church. Just, God opened. And there was that was the first and the second wave, correct? And I'm believing God for the third wave, the fourth wave. Yes, are we on the fourth wave now? Yeah. So if y'all don't know, God told us specifically one night at the furnace. It wasn't even. It was the furnace. Right after we first started the furnace, we were praying for a woman that had a miscarriage, and God spoke to me. He said, "Overflow Church will be the house of the open womb." So we've seen a lot of open wombs and it's been pretty awesome to see you guys not just steward that, but actually be able to receive from that. So that was very encouraging. Babe, why don't you share a little bit about what life's going to look like?
Sure. So I just wanted to add real quick that it's just been such an honor. I'm going to try not to cry. Here, I brought this up there. I know, thanks. We'll share it. It's just been such an honor like Nathan said, we were his youth pastor and we've known him for more than half his life. So we have seen them in every season. We saw them as friends and then dating and then engaged. I almost put it as one of my favorites. Nathan proposed to Brooke at our Christmas Eve service. Our first one, because she loves Christmas, and so he proposed at the Christmas Eve service. She's like, why is all my family here? They never come to church. But then, just
they were
kidding.
the only people there, I think.
And then we saw them engaged, and we saw them get married, and even just pressing in through infertility and being parents. And so it's just been such an honor just to get to have a front row seat to y'all's life. It's been such a blessing. Yes, so moving forward, we found out that this change was coming in June, and we instantly were like, what are we gonna do? Because I had literally said out of my mouth with audible words multiple times, I'll be fine. Overflow will be fine as long as we never lose Nathan and Brooke. Somebody would move, and I'm like, as long as it's not Nathan and Brooke. And I feel like obviously the Lord has a plan for their life that is outside of Overflow, but I really feel like he kind of asked me like, oh, is that what you think? You think you can't do this? If you don't have them, well, then I'm just gonna pluck them, and I was like, wait. So I am now being very careful with what I say, and I'm like, whatever's fine, Lord. But they have been such an impactful part of Overflow literally since the beginning. And so it was very much a mind shift of what are we gonna do and how's that gonna look. And so we instantly had to start planning, and it was so hard. I'm like, yesterday I was telling Josh, I'm like, I'm so glad that everybody's gonna find out tomorrow, because I can just be like, oh, everybody knows why I've been stressed. But anyway, we had to start, the logistics of it. And Brooke does so much, probably more than everybody realizes. And so we had to find somebody that was going to take over. And what's crazy is before the staff meeting, before they told us, we were like, hey, what do y'all think about adding the Guthries to our staff? And everybody in the room was like, yeah. So we had already decided we were going to ask them to come on our pastoral staff before we knew that they were leaving. And it was just like, boom, 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 like change, like within 2 weeks. It was kind of crazy. I may have lost it a little bit. Somebody forgave me. Thank you very much for forgiving me. But
I forgive you, babe.
Yes, well, it wasn't you.
It wasn't.
But anyway, we just had to start planning. And
Yes.
as the pastors are almost like the parents of the house, you have your children and they're growing up and they're moving into new things, and that's exciting. But then you're like, we got to refigure the roles here. So I
got to mow the grass again.
That's right. Yeah, I have to take out the trash now sometimes at Judah's in school. It's fine. Uriah's almost old enough. I'll be like, take out the trash. Yeah. Anyway, so whenever we asked the Guthries to come on staff, they were a little bit hesitant at first, just because they can share their story with you, but Aaron was kind of like, I'm not sure I ever want to do bivocational again, and they were like, hey, you want to be bivocational with us? But there was calls between them and Nathan and Brooke, like, hey, what's it like to work for them? Are they easy to work for?
Is Pastor Josh nicer when you're on staff?
I know, is this going to be a big mistake? No, anyways, so ultimately they had already said yes to being on staff, and then we asked her, Vanjie, if she would kind of come on and take over some of what Brooke was doing, and she said yes, so we're super excited for that. And so that's going to be awesome. So she's going to be the one running around like a chicken with her head cut off, so you can give her lots of extra grace. And am I still sharing?
Yeah, share about December, what we're going to do.
Yeah, so Nathan and Brooke are going to go through the month of November. They honestly, let me just also say this. Whenever they told us they were leaving, they're like, we're probably leaving probably soon, but we'll still stay here as long as you need us or want us. And so I just wanted, that was their heart.
And we asked for 5 more years.
Yeah. So we didn't know what that was going to look like. But December gets kind of crazy with special holiday services, and then we take off a Sabbath Sunday. So we're like, you know what? It would be so weird if their last service was our Christmas service. So that's why we went ahead and decided that it's going to be November, but then they're traveling for a wedding. So December 1st will officially be their last Sunday here. And we're going to make sure and honor them.
Yeah, so between services that day from 10:30 to 11, we're which is normally our deeper track time, we'll have the cafe open, and we just want everybody to feel free to come and bring gifts and hugs and love and money and prophetic words and all that stuff during that time between services. And they'll be in the cafe. They'll be in service with us that day, but they'll be in the cafe to tell all you guys, we'll see you later. Because they're still family. It's not like they're leaving and we're like, somebody's offended or anything like that. Like, we're in this thing forever. So, like it or not, we are.
Overflow Nashville. Just kidding.
Yeah. So, we'll see.
And then as far as the worship.
And as far as worship, Leslie's going to be taking back over worship. Those of you that have been with us a long time, Leslie was the worship pastor. And in 2020, Nathan took over as the worship pastor, and their roles just kind of switched, kind of like they are right now. Leslie helps Nathan out. Before, Nathan was helping Leslie out. Now it's going to switch for a little while for the next couple of months as they transition out. Did I explain that well?
Yeah.
I think so.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I'm not always good at explaining things like that.
You're good.
So.
But yeah, and another thing too is one of the things that Nathan shared at the leadership meeting when we shared this past weekend was that initially they were planning on just still like attending all the way up until they moved. Because if you guys were here when the sponsors left, that's what they were wanting to do. And they really felt like, especially because they were in the back with kids, they didn't get to kind of be in the service a lot. And they wanted to be able to just soak up the community before they left. And so they were kind of planning that, but then they felt like the Lord was like, well, did I tell you to do that? You know, so it would be so hard. If you guys have ever been in a leadership role anywhere, no matter church or anything, and then you step down from it and then you still attend, like Nathan, if there were sound problems, Nathan would run back to there and try to help. And so it's like they would not fully be able to check out and just receive here right away. You know what I'm saying? Like, of course, if they come back in town and visit, they would be able to. But so for the most part, they might show up and surprise us. But for the most part, December 1st will probably be the last time they're here on a Sunday for the next little while.
Sure. So I had a verse. I asked the Lord for a verse as we're closing out. And it was Philippians chapter 1. I actually had 2, but this is really the verse. And it says, every time I think of you, I give thanks to my God. And that has been my attitude for you guys since we met over here in the parent playroom and talked about this. Like, my posture was grateful, like sad, but proud, but mostly grateful that you've given 12 years of your life to invest here. And he says, whenever I pray, I make my request for you all. And I would encourage you guys, when y'all think about the Hernandez, write this verse down. Take a screenshot in the app of this verse. And this is the posture of the house. Yes, we're sad, but we're mostly grateful. Whenever I pray, I make my request for you with joy. For you have been our partners in spreading the good news about Jesus from the time you first heard until now. And I'm certain, I love this verse, he who began a good work within you will continue his work until it's finally finished on the day when Christ Jesus returns. So I'm so grateful that we've got to be a part of the beginning works, and we'll be a part of the continued works, and we'll see it till the end. And so thank you. Thank you for giving your lives here and allowing us to be part of your story. And this is always your home. You know, when you move away and all that, you still have home where you come back to. And so as we're closing, I know that we need to be done. And I'm going to ask the ministry team, and I'll dismiss, and then if you need ministry on this, I asked the Lord, I was like, what do you want to do? Like, this is kind of a weird message to do, or a weird message time to do ministry time. The week before last, I went away and just prayed and got with the Lord. And I told the Lord that there was an area in my life. I said, Lord, I want to be more fired up in that. Like, not fired up for Jesus. I've been on fire for Jesus for 30 years, but been fired up about this specific thing. And the Lord was like, I'm doing that. And I was like, that's good. And so I was like, what does that mean? You know, and basically what the Lord is saying is that by me asking him that, it shows that he's already doing that work in my life. And so I want to encourage you, like whatever you're asking the Lord for, understand that in the asking, that's the seed. That's the seed. That means that God's already doing it in you because you probably didn't want that on your own. And so I'm going to ask the ministry team to come up, and if there's some things that you're needing to respond to today, I think we have a ministry team, or at least like a couple of people. So if there's anything in your life that you're needing to respond to today that you've been kind of asking the Lord about, we've got these folks up here to pray and instill courage in you guys. And we're good. We sure love you guys. And
Can I just say one more thing real quick?
yes, absolutely.
You know, with us stepping down, that's going to create more opportunity at the end of the day. And so I would encourage you to ask yourself, you know, Lord, what is it that you have for me here? Not just to receive, but also a place where you can give. We've all found that a sense of fulfillment many times comes in the form of serving. And so, you know, you'll find that we have a pretty healthy volunteer culture here. And so, anyway, we love y'all, and it's just been such an honor to serve you guys and to point you to Jesus. So, we love you guys.
Thank you so much for joining us today at Overflow Church. Make sure and comment below and let us know that you were here to encounter Jesus with us today. Also, subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss anything coming from us in the future. Have a great week.